DRX, I'm going to put...
Oh, God.
Oh, chef.
7.
Seven? Seven? That's way too high.
He's just left out of here.
He's just
Dude, the power rankings are trolled. Anyway, short break time.
So today we're going to be a bit of a React Andy because I'm going to react to the PlatChat power rankings, of which I was a small part of, but I'm basically just going to say what I would have argued for here if I had stayed on the show and been a part of this power ranking. So we're going to go through it and say what's right with it, what's wrong with it, and then, you know, kind of show you what my overall power ranking at the end would look like. So let's start at the top and let's not waste too much time because Fnatic are number 1 and obviously everyone agrees with that. And in fact, we can even go to the second team as well with PaperX with something. Yes, they finished 3rd at Masters Tokyo, but that was with a sub and now they're adding in one of the best players in the world. And so I completely agree that they should be number 2 as well. And continuing to go down. Oh, also I agree with the tier break here with the Fnatic. I think that's a good tier break. But EG in 3, they finished 2nd in Tokyo. They looked very good, and you know they played Fnatic very close in the first time that they met, so I think, you know, putting them 3 is perfectly reasonable as well, and the top 3 I have no issues with whatsoever. Then we come to 4 and 5, and again with this tier break here for the 2 to 5, I kind of agree with that, but you know, any of these teams I think would be what I would call likely to be Fnatic's challenger, right? You got Fnatic at the top, and then I think these 4 teams are kind of your most likely challengers. But I would argue for a swap here of NRG and Edward Gaming. My reason is, I think there's a bit of perception thing with EDG going on, right? We all kind of want EDG to be good. That's such a fun story. That's such a fun team to watch. But, you know, and we gave NRG a lot of kind of criticism for losing to PaperX with a sub, and it was like, NRG, you can't lose to a team with a sub, at the, you know, that deep in a tournament. But so did EDG, right? And I know that people will say, well, it was EDG's first big run and all of that, right? But I think, in my opinion, that makes it even less likely that they should have lost to a team like PaperX playing with a sub. That, to me, was a kind of a big disappointment that, you know, they really should be beating that team, considering they had, you know, seemingly so much momentum and they were, you know, playing at such a high level. Some of their players, you know, I thought that really they should have been winning that game. And, you know, because NRG, they just have more experience, I'm just more confident that NRG will make another deep run. Whereas for EDG, we've only seen it once. And so, you know, I just want to see it again before, you know, it's kind of, I know who EDG fully are. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint over this with the Epic Pen. And we are going to swap those teams and write in, in fact, I'll even get rid of their logos as well there. We will write in NRG and EDG, and this is the way that we're going to do it. It won't be perfect, but there you go. NRG 4, EDG 5, but I'd still have them 5th, and I'd still have them above this tier break with Loud as well. And speaking of Loud, let's talk about this team in 6, which I think, yeah, probably is fair. Again, obviously, Loud are a bit of a who knows what's going to happen. Could they bomb out of the tournament without winning a game? Yes. Could they win the whole tournament? Also, yes. Right? Like, they definitely have, I think, the biggest range of outcomes at this tournament. Obviously, there's the rumors of things not going too well for them. So I think that 6th in after that kind of tier break is a good place to put them. Now let's talk about this next tier break though, because it's after DRX but before Team Liquid. Now, I think that that is absolutely wrong. I think that this tier break should definitely be after Team Liquid, because I think that these 3 teams, if I get a bit of a bigger pen, these 3 teams in DRX, Loud, and Liquid are what I would call the uncertain teams. Teams that I could see doing a lot of different stuff, right? Teams that could make a very deep run, teams that could, you know, do nothing, essentially, right? Those are these 3 teams, kind of high-profile teams that you're just a bit unsure about. And I would also swap Team Liquid and DRX. I know that I locked DRX into 7. I know that this was obviously something that they could not change on PlatChat, but they did put a tier break after DRX, therefore kind of confirming that they would have put DRX in 7 despite their reaction at the very start of this video. So I would actually swap DRX and Team Liquid here. So let's get the paint out and change that. So here it is, Team Liquid at 7 and DRX at number 8, with then a tier break after them. But now let's come to the second half. The first half, we haven't seen too much changes, right? Just a couple quick changes of a couple teams, but nothing too extreme. But the second half is where, you know, things get a bit more chaotic, I think, because a lot of these teams are, you know, somewhat similar, right? Like everyone from 9, I mean, maybe apart from FPX, but really 9 to 15 here, I could see, basically, you could argue for any of these teams being number 9, essentially, depending on how you was persuaded. But actually, I kind of agree with Crew at 9. The kind of top and bottom of this, I agree with FPX at 16, and I kind of agree with Crew at 9. Now, Crew, an interesting team, and to me, a lot of it will be, you know, Kesnet's form, obviously, during the LCQ, for the most part, was kind of insane, and if he can keep that up, if he can keep that kind of thing going, you know, I think it could work for them. I'm still a little concerned by Crew. I have concerns with all of these teams, basically. But my concern with Crew is, like, you know, they did still lose a 13-4 to Cloud9. Right? That did still happen. So that kind of makes me think, you know, do they have, like, a bad performance in them? What if things do start off bad on a map? Which it likely will when you're playing against, you know, these best teams in the world. Yeah, you're not gonna start hot every map. You're not gonna, you know, get a nice lead and be playing confident. You know, you're gonna need to problem solve probably a lot more than Crew had to during the LCQ. So I am a little worried about that, but I think overall their performance was good enough to me, and their game plans were good enough, and the way that their individual form was good enough to warrant putting them 9th. But then we look at the rest of the list, starting with like Giants at 10th, and this is where I start to get a bit different in terms of my opinions of where these teams should be. Obviously, Foot at 15 are kind of the big, like, whoa, what are Foot doing down there? And this is the question of, you know, are the LCQ teams with Crew at 9 and Giants at 10, are they being overrated because we've just seen them, right? But we've just basically seen them beat up on a bunch of bad teams. You know, are they getting overrated a bit? And I think possibly that is true, because to me, Foot, you know, did suffer from the fact that Tokyo was their first international tournament as a team, right? Like, that was their first time going, and they didn't have any experience, and you're in a foreign country, and, you know, you're playing against some of these, you know, best teams in the world or whatever, and it's different, and you're not used to it, and so you might struggle a bit. And even so, they actually, until EG played Fnatic, Foot probably played Evil Geniuses the closest of anyone until they got to Fnatic. So I feel like Foot have been disrespected somewhat here, and should be higher. Personally, I think you can just look at it and look at Foot and Giants, and they're very similar teams in terms of how they perform throughout the EMEA regular season. Giants beat Foot in the regular season, but then Foot beat Giants in the EMEA playoffs, right? Like, to me, they're very, very close, and although you could say, like, Giants have had a maybe slight uptick, I don't think it's any more than, like, you know, Foot would have had either with the extra time that they've had off, you know, to kind of, you know, come up with some new ideas and whatever of how they want to play. And so I'm still feeling pretty confident about Foot as a whole. And then T1 are another team I want to talk about as well, because T1 to me are a team that I probably massively underrated as we were going into the season, and then consistently, you know, I wasn't a massive T1 believer, but they proved me wrong. And I think, you know, having watched them at Masters Tokyo as well, I personally would probably put them above the likes of Giants. You know, again, gaining that experience. I know the Giants do have some experience of international tournaments, like Nookie and Pipson as well with G2 and whatnot. So it's not like they're going in completely blind, but, you know, for a lot of their players, it kind of will be a new experience. And so, you know, that does worry me a bit for Giants. So I would put T1 probably a step ahead as well. So basically what I'm saying is that all of this can be painted over. Because I don't agree. We're definitely going to be moving Foot up quite a bit. I have some concerns about Giants with their map pool as well. You know, we mentioned it on the show whilst I was there that, you know, Giants didn't play that many different maps. And so, you know, it's difficult to know how good they really are across all of their maps. And knowing Giants and Pipson from G2, oftentimes they will have maps where they're pretty good, but then other maps where it's not great. That's kind of been historically some of their performances. So here's what I would do. I'd probably put T1 in here, and I've just left the logo so you can see what the original was. T1 in at 10th. And I'm going to be moving Foot all the way up, but I want Foot and Giants next to each other. So let's go Foot 11, Giants in at 12. And then we've got kind of the other three, Navi, Zeta, and Billy Blee. Do I agree with that rating? Well, a part of me really wants to put Zeta above Navi, but there's just that part of Navi where you just think, yeah, but there's a small chance that they just all start playing great again, right? They are 5 champions, and, you know, there's not many teams who can say that. In fact, there's only one other team that can say that at this tournament of having 5 champions. So you still worry about that, but I am going to put Navi, I think, just ahead of Zeta here and just move everyone one step down to have Billy Blee here at 15th. I don't really want to do that because, you know, it's two Chinese teams down here at the bottom, but I think that they could struggle from the, you know, we haven't played an international tournament either before. And so I think that this is what I'm going to have as my final rating here. Overall, I don't think PlatChat did a bad job here with the ratings. I think, you know, they got, you know, it was a pretty decent. I think that they have underrated Foot a bit too much. You know, I think we go on about like, oh, Kesnit, if he can play well, but I could say the same for Kiwi, right? If Kiwi has a great tournament as well, then Foot will do very well. And, you know, Foot have a group, and it's kind of interesting. I put T1 and Foot next to each other because that second place most likely is coming down to, you know, these two teams and who can win that game. And so, you know, I do think that will probably be a pretty close game, and one of them will probably be making the playoffs. And so those are my rankings here for the... And so those are my power rankings here for the... So here are my power... So that is my final power ranking list here for the 2023 champs. Let me know what you think in the comments down below of why I'm right and why PlatChat was so clearly wrong.